I have a bad feeling about this.
You know, there are a variety of episodes and moments throughout Clone Wars that take influence from popular IPs, like Indiana Jones, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, Jaws, and as we just recently saw last week, The Seven Samurai.
No, he's got a point.
And in a lot of these instances, there's a degree of subtlety to their placement, but this little duology leans in heavily to its illusional roots.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. Intel has told us there are at least 7. They're the same picture.
With a mythical monster tale that recently received a follow-up in the Bad Batch's latest season after much demand for a continuation to possibly one of the show's biggest mysteries. And frustratingly, even after the follow-up, we still haven't any fucking idea whatever the Empire is supposedly going to do with it. I am of course talking about the Zillo Beast.
It's Godzilla! It looks like Godzilla, but due to international copyright laws, it's not. Still, we should run like it is Godzilla!
A semi-sentient, gargantuan, scale-back creature native to the planet of Malastare that is established as a natural predator to the Dugs on world in this episode, and there's a lot more history and mythos to it than we're aware of, but thankfully, this is one of the most imaginative concepts introduced by Dave and George that deserved far more screen time. And I'll get into the beast properly afterward, but I felt it appropriate to find an excuse to remind you just how fucking awesome this thing looks, and hopefully catch you in the enigma of it before running down this one.
Look at the shiny.
We start this one with the Republic positioning a scattered defense of clones to delay a ginormous battalion of droids as they march upon the capital of Malastare, where we catch up with Anakin, Mace, Dr. Boyle, and Palps discussing the use of a new EMP bomb that has the potential to wipe out extensive amounts of droids in one blow.
That's what she said!
With the leader of the Dugs, Dojurus, who airs his concerns about the impact that the bomb could have on the land and its people, but Dr. Boyle offers her assurances that the bomb is designed to only affect inorganics, meaning that the clones, Jedi and civilians will be safe whenever one is detonated. As the battle begins, bombers are deployed with the EMP being dropped, and it lets out a massive charge, knocking out the droids and auditory functions for the clones' helmets, causing them distress as well.
Hey, did you know that carrots are good for your eyesight?
You lied to me.
But it appears to have done its job until a massive crater begins to form from the impact, dropping several surviving troopers and equipment below the planet's surface. After the results of this are considered a success, Palps asks that the Dugs sign a treaty with the Republic to assure guaranteed fuel supply for them going forward, and protection for the Dugs in return during the war. However, Dojurus tells them that it will take time as the council members from Malastare need to be present for the signing. While they wait, Mace, Commander Pons, and the remaining troops from above start looking for the survivors that fell below, and upon finding a few soldiers visibly distressed, they catch on to why the men are feeling so uneasy, where it's revealed a giant creature lurks below with them, which of course is the aforementioned Zillo Beast.
Still, we should run like it is Godzilla! Though it isn't.
As the bastard rises up, Mace and his troops flee for the gunships, however many of the clones are still stuck down there with it, so Anakin goes in as a distraction, unaware of what the beast looks like, and is caught off guard pretty quickly. The beast knocks him down, and after a little creativity, both Annie and R2 manage to get away, and a little while after, they approach the Dugs for an answer as to how to deal with the beast, where we as the audience catch a diagram outlining the beast's anatomy with areas circled to imply its weak spots, which they hide from the Jedi. Upon discovering the beast is likely to be the last of its kind, Mace feels it deserves to be removed from the planet to an isolated world so it can live its days, but won't become a threat to any active civilizations. This frustrates the Dugs, who disagree with this idea and plan to use the planet's fuel resources to slowly destroy it. However, Anakin can see Mace's visible annoyance with their dismissal of his concerns, so approaches this in a different way. The Jedi decide to bring the idea to the Dugs, who threaten to pull the peace treaty if they don't help them kill it, of using electro tanks to slow the beast's heart rate down so much you'd think it was dead, without informing the Dugs of what the tanks actually do.
You lied to me? I knew I liked you.
Convinced that the Jedi are going to kill it, they agree to sign if it's brought down, which they manage to do once it crawls out of the crater, and the Republic have it removed from Malastare with the aim of delivering it to Coruscant on order from Palpatine to be studied. Now, quite frankly, back in the day that this debuted, I thought this was a ridiculous concept to explore in Star Wars, but over the years I've began to warm up to the idea of the Zillo Beast, and upon various rewatches, I found myself craving more from this side of things. The Beast now has a little more credibility in terms of its lore, being featured in Bad Batch Season 2, and the Age of Resistance Villains comic series where Kylo Ren discovers another Zillo living elsewhere in the galaxy, and that is considered a deity to the locals on that world.
Fuck.
But even with those additions, there's still so much I want to explore with this concept, and given we're receiving material from the High Republic era, I'd like to believe there's every chance we could see it return there for an earlier look at the species and how they operated. But from just this episode alone, we got to understand that the Zillo Beasts are hefty creatures, with impenetrable scales, unquestionable dexterity and agility that should be reserved for a creature half its size, and generally so territorial that they don't take kindly to being gassed out or hit with electro rays. The next episode does an equally good job at continuing an exploration into the Zillo by subtly informing us that they are semi-sentient for reasons that I'll get into there, but otherwise the creature is proud, powerful and dominant, and was a fascinating challenge to watch the Jedi come up against and try and overcome in an effort to preserve its life. To know that for however powerful a lightsaber can be though, that there's something far more durable than it, strips Anakin and Mace of a common assist that is invaluable to a Jedi, meaning they now need to use their smarts, leading to Anakin's suggestion of the electro cannons to subdue the beast. The plot convenience though is rather glaring with the cannons, but we had to save the fuel for its later use and keep this idea going, I guess, which as I mentioned was expanded on intriguingly well in the Bad Batch. But still, a concept that we basically didn't even incorporate until the final act is possibly one of the weakest builds from Clone Wars to help control the situation.
You're basic.
Generally though, I think the Zillo is a fun concept that clearly derives from Godzilla, with some of the framing and phrasing mimicking famous aspects from the history of the great kaiju in cinema, but feels distinct enough to separate it from that and create an entirely new threat for the galaxy that was told to be once in the thousands. A bit like the Jedi thinking about it. Anyway though, I mentioned that it was thrilling to see Annie and Mace have to take a different approach to this situation, but remove the practical adjustments to such an encounter. The compelling aspect of this writing comes from their assessments of the Zillo and how it should be approached versus the Dug's intent for such a sight. It's an interesting debate that we see in this as we truly understand what the teachings of the Jedi mean and how those understandings can be applied to real life situations, like saving possibly the last of a species from extinction, whereas the natural inhabitants that warred with these creatures for centuries before wish to conclude a long-standing rivalry between them against an otherwise unaware entity and simultaneously coerce the Republic into supporting its termination. Our intrepid heroes bat back against this impressively though, and ratify the treaty for the use of their fuel, which, if you think about it, is pretty underhanded, but you could say that the Jedi bit back with what they were given. The unnerving part of how we left this, of course, was Palpatine and Dr. Ball requesting the creature be brought to Coruscant for further examination, which flies right in the face of what Annie and Mace promised to do with the beast, but they wanted to release it on an uninhabited system free from scrutiny and disruption. I won't discuss this part here, as otherwise I'll have fuck all to talk about next episode, but let's just say if you've yet to watch part 2, you're in for a treat. Generally though, this was a solid little escapade, with fun little Easter eggs for those familiar with the references it's using. The thematic beats were exactly what you know from the Godzilla franchise, tying into next week's episode. This was a steady pace, it held exciting visuals, excellent character work regarding Anakin and Mace that stays true to what the Jedi stand for, and honestly, some pretty good frickin' action. I like the tension around this one as well, and the design choices were perfect looking back, with every step and stomp the beast made feeling weighted. Anakin's escape was possibly my favourite part to this, and like I was then, I continue to feel now, I'm excited for what comes next. Anyway, that's going to do it for me for this week. I hope you liked what you saw here. If you did, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to keep up to date with all of my content, and don't forget to ring that bell so you'll never miss a notification. And until next time everyone, take care, and may the Force be with you.